Good afternoon. Can you hear me all right? It's great to see you all. I'm feeling really excited to be here. I've been listening to some of the speakers today. I've been listening to what you are doing here, and it's really exciting. And what I'm really motivated to do with you is to share some secrets. And I want to have some fun with you on that. And I just ask you 3 questions. And the first question is, how many people in the room, just with a show of hands, how many of you would like to make more money in your business? I think all of you. That's great. Put your hand up if you'd like to do that, but spend less time doing it. Who'd be interested in spending less time making that money or more? Okay, those are good. And put your hand up if you'd be interested in a little tool that you could plug into your business and turn on and just run from time to time that will make sure you achieve those 2 goals. Who'd be interested in a little tool to do that? Terrific, I'm in the right place. I want to show you how to create a strategic mindset. So today's been about thinking about mindset, but how do we do it in terms of strategy? So I want to demystify that a little bit for you. I want to talk about dealership at scale. What does it look like when your dealership goes to scale? And the last thing I want to talk about is, I'm starting to think about retirement. I've got a few grey hairs and I can see a few of my friends in the room. What does retirement look like? So I want to talk to you a little bit about how that might look. Tom's a tradie and he owns a Hilux. And he's heading down the old road, same old road, and he sees a sign. But he's going so fast to get to the next job, he can't read what it says. So that's Tom. And then there was Dick. And Dick had a BT50. And he was tearing on down the job, and he got down the old road, and he was doing the same old thing. And he saw a sign on the side of the road. And he looked at it as he went past it, turn off to the future. The sign said, turn off to the future. And Dick thought to himself, turn off to the future. That's not a bad idea. Maybe I should pull over, do a U-E, and take the turn off to the future. But Dick was so used to doing what Dick did that he just kept going on down the road. He didn't change that turn at that point. And lastly, there was Harry. And Harry was going down the same old road a little bit later on, and he saw a sign that said, turn off to the future. And Harry took the turn off to the future. And it's really interesting, having consulted to businesses for 20 years, what I know, and you may have heard this statistic, is that 2 out of 3 businesses that start up fail within 3 years. Who's heard that statistic before? Yeah, you start up a business, and you're the ones that weren't in that 66%, unless you're really fresh meat and you're still trying to work out how to do it. But 2/3 of businesses fail within that time period. And what's really interesting as I start to do more and more work globally and work with more and more businesses across the international space, I've discovered another statistic. 96% of all businesses fail within 10 years. So if I look through this room and say there's 100 people in this room, 100 businesses in this room, based on the global average, only 4 of these businesses will still be here in 10 years. Think about it. 10 years' time, where will you be? So today's talk is about that. And I'm going to give you some things to think about, and if you take them and you apply them into your business, then I want to move you out of the 96% and I want to move you into the 4%. Does that sound cool? All right. Now, business failure, when we have a close look at it through a lens, 79% of businesses surveyed said they didn't have enough time to do strategy, to think about the future. And I wouldn't buy that. I would say you didn't prioritise the time. So this conference today is about prioritising time. B&D is giving you this opportunity, but you need to do it for yourself on a regular basis. 67% of businesses in this country said they didn't have sufficient strategy skills in-house to plan for their future. So they just kept doing what Dick would do, just keep doing, right? 65% said they were too similar to the competition. You have an edge over the competition. You are very different from the competition. You have a different value proposition to your competitors, which is fantastic. And 51% of firms said they lack the skills in-house. Right? So strategy is a hard thing to think about. It's kind of what Adam was talking about. It's one of those high-energy activities that our brain needs to go, no, we'll just do what's easy is right. We won't think too hard about the future. We'll just keep doing what we've been doing. So, quick question. How many people in the room, with a show of hands, think strategy is important? Just put your hand up if you think strategy is important in your business. Yep. That's what I expect, about 95% of the room. 5% of you already made it. You're fine. Okay? How many people in the room think they are good at strategy? Put your hand up if you think you're good at strategy. Well, you are a humble, modest group. When I speak to audience, it's more of an ego question. Yeah, we can do strategy. Yeah? But normally, there's your group saying, we don't know much about strategy. So if you listen up, you may get quite a bit from today's presentation and make it as valuable for you as I can. And I want to tell you the story about the old lady now. And she's very old. I brought a bit of her in today. I couldn't bring her all in because she died 25,000 years ago. And her name's Wilma. And here she is. She came in pieces. When I told her she's coming in, she said she fell to pieces. But here she is. And this is Wilma. Can anybody tell me who Wilma is? Whose wife? So she died out 25,000 years ago along with the rest of her species. That might be a clue. Who is she? No, we're Homo sapiens. A distant relative of ours. What'd you say? Neanderthal. Thank you. What's your name? Connor, you're not a Neanderthal. Okay, this is great. Wilma was a Neanderthal. If we have a look at her skull and my skull, or we look at the skull of the two species, what can you tell me about the shape of the profile of the skull? What do you notice? Anybody? She got big eyebrows. Yeah. What's she got? What's pretty small on her? Yeah, frontal lobes are really small. Well done. What's your name? Graham, you've got a nice frontal lobe. You're very smart. You're very smart. All right? Now, what do we notice about the back of her skull? It's long, isn't it? Compared to mine, it's quite short. So she had a lot of real estate in the back of her skull for her hindbrain, but not much up here. All right? So we're going to talk about what that meant for her and her species, who were wiped out. So they existed on the Earth from 25,000 years ago, a little bit earlier, right through to about... 250,000 years ago, right through about 25,000 years ago. But what happened was, and we can see it on this diagram here, that Wilma and her kinsfolk lived in basically Europe. And the Homo sapiens lived in Africa. And at some point, due to climatic change, due to population growth, due to deforestation, the Homo sapiens decided that they could go global, which is an interesting metaphor for business at another level. Everything seems to be going global. I heard before that there's some deal going with the US at the moment, which is really exciting. You're going global. You've got a global brand now. And Wilma was not able to go global because when the Homo sapiens came along, it was a fight between the brains. Yeah? And the Neanderthals were wiped out by the sapiens. And there's a reason for that. And in business, you can be wiped out just as easily unless you utilize your entire brain. We talked a little bit about brain chemistry this morning in neuroscience. Now, has anybody played football as a kid or basketball? A few of you, athletic types. Well, if you actually peel back our skull and you peel back Wilma's skull, you see the brain shapes are quite different. The Neanderthal had a brain that was the shape of an NRL or an NFL football, whereas we have a brain that's more like the shape of a basketball. Yeah? And that made for a difference. If you have a look at those three sections of the brain there, we can see that the Neanderthal skull the brain had a big hindbrain, a very small forehead, whereas the Homo sapiens had more of a midbrain and more of a forebrain, not so much hindbrain. Okay? The implication for business out of all that is that at the back of our brain we have a parietal lobe, which allows us to sense our environment. We also have an occipital lobe, which allows us to see what's coming over the hill. And because Neanderthals had big real estate in the back, they were able to sense their environment very well. And they could see what was coming over the hill. They saw the sapiens coming. They could see us before we saw them. They had night vision because their hindbrain was so developed. What we had was we had a big frontal cortex, which allowed us to connect with one another. It allowed us to formulate plans. And the Neanderthals weren't able to socially organize, so they couldn't do that. And then the midbrain is where we have our basal ganglia and cerebellum, and that's our motivational centers. Adam was talking about motivation this morning. And the other thing that the midbrain does is it allows us to be coordinated. It allows us to have agility and be fast and move. So the human condition is absolutely the business condition. So from a neuroscience point of view, these are broad functions of the human brain. And these are broad functions when it comes to strategy and business. You might be starting to see some parallels. So what I want you to do, because it's nearly 3 o'clock, I want you to stand up, please. Get some blood moving into that brain. And I want you to place your hand on your parietal lobe back here. And I want you to say, sense. Do it again. All right, we're going to add something onto that. See. So move. All right, do it together. Sense and see. All right. Now, if you don't remember anything from this talk today, I want you to remember the next minute. All right, the next two actions are connect. Try that. Connect. Again. Connect. Beautiful. And plan. Okay, put it together. Connect and plan. All right, from the top. Sense, see, connect, plan. Very good. Should we stop there or do you want to do the other two? We'll do the other two. And there's a reason for that, because you already do the other two quite well, what I've noticed from the surveys. How many of you did that little survey, a little 6-question survey? Thank you very much. We'll see the results of those in a moment. So the last two are focus. You know that? Focus and move. Focus and move. Focus and move. All right? So let's do it from the top. Sense, see, connect, plan, focus, move. Give yourself a round of applause. That was wonderful. Yeah? To be able to plan. All right? So hopefully I'm giving you some today we can do that a bit better. And then move faster with influence. All right? We don't wait for the customer to come to us. We chase them down and get them to do something for us, which is what Adam said, which is a great strategy. Does that make sense? Good. All right. I want to unpack each of these 6 things going along, and I'll give you a little example of each so you can think about your own business. The second one was? See. That's right. We have to see what's coming over the next horizon. All right. Now, Tom, I think he probably just kept going down the road and drove off a cliff. He didn't no idea about the future. But we've got to see what's coming over the horizon. And there's a great company out there called McKinsey & Company. And they developed a model about 30 years ago called the 3 Horizons model. And what they say is a good business is mindful of 3 horizons. It's not just what army's coming over the hill. It's like what army's behind that one and what plague is coming beyond that one. So there are 3 horizons. And the first horizon is the next 18 months. What's in the next 18 months? The second horizon is very much about 3 to 5 years. And the third horizon is 5 years plus. So in terms of that first horizon, what we want to do is we want to scale up our core business. What we know, how can we add more value to that? Does that make sense? We're all reasonably good at that. The second horizon is a bit risky because it's 3 to 5 years out. We need to place some bets. We need to plant some seeds. We need to do some education. We need to start having some conversations with people. So businesses are typically not particularly good at that. They just sort of let luck happen, right? If you're proactive, you can make a lot of money migrating valuable things into your business as they're coming over that second horizon. Yeah? See some people nodding their heads. They know that they do that. The last one is called the third horizon, which is a longer term horizon. Anybody done a SWOT analysis? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? A few of you. Now, SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What I do when we look at the third horizon is I change the word from opportunities to options. Because the third horizon is about what are my options long term? What are the options for my business 5 years from now? So what I want you to do is partner up with someone now and just talk about what your options are in 5 years' time for this business from what you know. And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But just throw it around for a couple of minutes. In 5 years' time, what could your business look like? Could it be bigger? Could it be smaller? Could you be just working with architects? Or would you be in the United States? What are the options for your business in 5 years' time? Off you go. 2 minutes. Go. Do we have any Western Australians here? Well, the people from Dutch, hey, good on you. Go down, yeah. So the Dutch came and they came to Western Australia and they saw one of these things. They go, a black swan? How's that possible? And they thought, well, we got white ones in Europe. I suppose there could be black ones. They said that's possible. But it wasn't until they saw it that they just thought it would be possible. The nice thing about black swans is if you recognize them, when they happen, you make a lot of money. I bought Qantas shares for $1.65 after 9/11, and they were trading at $5. I thought, when the stock market opens in a couple of days, I bet you those Qantas shares would be a good buy. Boy, were they a good buy. and the bank shares and everything else. So when a black swan happens, you can jump in and take advantage of it. Now, when those Lockyer Valley floods came through in Queensland, people had to replace their carpets. So, a plumber or a sparky was a bit short of work at that point. I said, you know what, I'm starting a new business today. It's called Carpets R Us, Southeast Queensland, right? And they could have just printed money. So this is the point about a black swan. These opportunities present themselves from time to time. There's another bird problem. They're often bird problems. It's called an inverse turkey problem. Who's heard of a frog in a pot? Yeah? Frog in a pot. Frog gets in the pot, someone turns the gas on nice and low, frog says, oh, this is all right. And it gets hotter and hotter, and it's like, it's getting a bit hot in here. Oh, better jump out. Oh, I can't jump out. You know? Bored frog. In the United States, they call it an inverse turkey problem. Because in December, these little turkey chicks, they hatch, and they feed them lots of corn and stuff, and they give them the kids to play with, and they go, oh, this is very good, being a turkey. And we love them. They love them and love them. And then about the 15th or 16th of November, it's like the blonde comes with a hatchet. And it's all over for the turkey, and the turkey had no idea. So everybody in this room is an inverse turkey waiting to happen. There could be an event out there beyond your control. You're lulled into this like, I'm an accredited dealer. What could go wrong? All right? Be aware of the inverse turkey. All right? Okay? All right. Connect. Time to connect, yeah? Time to connect. We've talked a little bit about customers today. I've framed customers in 4 ways: red, yellow, blue, and green. How many people in this room feel they're a product provider? To provide a product. Who provides a product? That was a trick question, wasn't it? You are providing a product. Who sells the amazing benefits of B&D roller doors? Who's out there selling the benefits? All of you, right? Okay. And the benefits are amazing. I've purchased half a dozen houses in my life. I've even built one from scratch. I've never purchased a B&D roller door. But every house I've had a B&D roller door. This is the house I built in Lennox Head in 2006. I designed it, I project managed it, and I built it. And what was interesting about that house was the only thing I didn't really knock down, I kept the old annex, was the 2 B&D roller doors. I just roll them up and roll them down. They got put in 1970, and I went back to the house the other day. I'm not living there now. And it's still there. All right? These things are like German tanks. They last forever. Well, those ones do. Anyway, I don't know what they're like today, but they're probably pretty good. So, you've got a fantastic brand on your hands here. So it should be easy to sell the benefits. Now, we talked about two-way relationships. Relationships are really important. When we're connecting, it's about having two-way relationships with our customer. Get our customers doing something for us, we do something for them. And the last part of the customer industry is the green area. It's about alliance partners. What alliances can you form out there in the marketplace that helps get more and more customers happily associated with your product or service? Right? So have a think about how that works. Can you move from provider to seller to having a relationship, and then obviously build alliances that grow your business? Okay. Had a little chat with a couple of people over lunch about competitors. So I've got a question for you. Let's suppose for a moment that you're not a B&D dealer, but you're actually an ice cream vendor. And it's a really hot day, and there's a beach with thousands of people on it. And there's an ice cream van on the beach. In fact, there's a couple of ice cream vans on the beach, and they're sitting next to each other, and they're selling ice cream. And you bring your ice cream van along to this long beach. Where do you set up your ice cream van? There's two choices. You can set up the ice cream van next to the competitors, or you can go to one end or the other end of the beach. How many people would like to put their van at one end of the beach away from the competitors and be uncontested? How many people would like to do that? No. There's a few of you, yeah? Okay. It seems to make rational sense. I'll go to a space where it's uncontested, yeah? All right. So the right answer is right next to the other vans, all right? What happens if there's a fourth van arriving? The fourth van comes along. So there's three in the middle of the beach, and there's an opportunity to go to one end of the beach or the other. How many people would like to go to the other end of the beach now? About the same number. And the right answer is the fourth van needs to sit next to the other two. And the reason for that is that everybody on the beach gets the idea that if you want ice cream on the beach, where do you go? The middle of the beach. Even if you don't know where the middle of the beach is, it's like, oh, I want an ice cream. Oh, go to the middle of the beach. So it demonstrates social proof. And this model works on. You can keep adding more and more players on one condition, that you differentiate. Are you different from any other roller door company out there? Have you got significant benefits over all the other players? So you should have no problem setting up alongside them because both businesses can benefit from that. In this scenario, I call it the ice cream vans and beach on the scenario, that if there's another roller door company around and you decide to set up your premise right next to them, a number of things are going to happen. If your price is superior to theirs, they're going to raise their price. Yeah? Which means you won't have to fight so much in terms of discounting your price. Right? Because they're going to raise their price because they want to be like you. The other thing that happens is if you're kilometres apart from each other, someone says, oh, where would I get a roller door from around here? I said, oh, there's a few in that part of the area, but I'm not sure it is. Rather than, oh, there's 3 in a row. You want to go to the roller door centre. Oh, where's that? Oh, it's a place where there's 3 roller door companies. So it's counterintuitive. But if you connect with your competitors and you think about the value proposition, sitting right next to your competitors is why there's 59 theatres between 5th and 6th Avenue on Broadway. And why there is a truckload of Chinese restaurants in the Chinatown district, and every one of them does better than a standalone Chinese restaurant even in a busy location. And this is why when you go to Australia Square or one of these big shopping centres and malls, Optus and Vodafone and Telstra, they're all next to each other because they all benefit from that experience. So if there's another competitor in your environment, it's like, oh, they're set up a block from us, we should move away. No, move closer. Because you increase the value proposition around roller doors, which is your category. Okay, remember what Adam said about categories? People shop for categories. Then they justify based on brand. You've already got the brand edge. So don't be afraid of locating next to your competitors because it'll help you. All right? So there are 3 different ways these guys dealt with the future. Some people like Tom just kept going the way they were going. Dick was able to offload a little bit or think a little bit smarter. But Harry, good old Harry, worked out a really good way of doing it. So 3 things I'll leave you with today. There's a strategic mindset. So I'll get you to stand up and we'll go through it one more time. Up you come. What was the first one? Sense. What's the second one? See. What's the third one? Connect. 4th one? Plan. Move. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. It's great. Think about scaling your dealership. Think about how you want your retirement to look. I've given you a taste of what strategy might look like. This 6-step process is a process that if you run on a regular basis through your business, sense and see, connect and plan, focus and move, and what you'll notice is you then repeat that process. Yeah? It's a cyclical process. So if you're interested in some more information about that, I'm going to step outside after this talk during the break. I've got a book out there, as I mentioned before. It's got 20 exercises in it. The book's half blank pages. It's like a workbook. The best ideas in this book will be the ones, if you buy it, that you write in it. But it gives you the support to go through that strategic mindset process. I wish you well in the strategy space. You certainly need it in the current climate, and all the best of luck. Thank you very much.